My name is Gatero-Ceo. I'm a writer, director, producer. I like to call myself a super director. So I grew up in South B. That's just where I was born and bred. 5 siblings, all of them very intellectual, driven, and I was really the only creative in the family. So that was very interesting because I've been creative my entire life. My childhood, I started writing when I was 7 years old. So I was the creative of the family. My father was a chief engineer at Kenya Railways, and my mother was a business person. In fact, it's from her that I kind of learned I got a taste of the entrepreneurial life. And she taught me a lot. And so I think, through her, I would be I think I just want to be an entrepreneur one day. And yet her, on the other hand, she'll be no, I think you should, get a job first, be employed and all that stuff. I was employed for only 1 year. So in 2008, I started my own business and it just picked it from there. And I've never looked back. So the first show that I produced was called Better Days. I wrote Better Days when I was in high school. I was in Form 3, actually, when I wrote it. So at that time, I didn't really know that much about TV or film. So I wrote Better Days as if it's a play, right? And then when I finished high school, when I finished Form 4, that holiday after Form 4, I would take it to different stations and, try to, can I see the production manager? And they're who's this kid? Who's this kid just asking to? So, no, of course, no one ever let me see the production manager. He was always on leave. He was always out for lunch, So, in fact, there's one that in the morning, I went, she's oh, he's on leave. Then when I went later, he's out for lunch. I'm is he on leave or he's out for lunch? Can you guys decide what this guy is doing? So, funnily enough, I left it at KTN. It took a long time for them to call me. I'd even forgotten about it. They called me now, I think I was 19. They were hey, there's a script that you left us that we really like. Can we meet you? And so when the guy met me, he was shocked because he's how old are you? And I was old enough, And yeah, that's how Better Days came about. And Better Days was a very exciting project for me. I was very young. And it's the reason I decided I want to do film. Because by the time he was calling me, I had gone to the Catholic University. I was going to do BCom. But then after the whole Better Days thing happened, I went on set a couple of times. I was no, I think this is my life. So I kind of dropped out of university. Of course, my mother was not amused. Better Days, I think, for me was a very proud moment because apart from the fact that I wrote it when I was very young, I know it was the first show that KTN took on locally. And even in the local market, there were very, very few local shows. And so it was the first show that was done by KTN, and they did a very good job. It was very well done, very well produced, very well scripted. And so, it was a very, very proud moment for me. And the biggest reason it was such a proud moment is because 2 years back, I remember when I was in Form 2, my father would ask me, what are your future plans? What are your future plans? He kept asking me that question. And I used to keep telling my dad, I want to be a writer. I want to be a writer. That's what I want to do the rest of my life. And my father told me, there's no way you're ever going to make a living. You cannot make a living in Kenya. And I remember the one thing that my dad told me that was so interesting. He said, if ever artist makes a living in Kenya, they only make it after they're dead. Because after they're dead, that's when people kind of celebrate them. Yeah. So he said, you have to have a fallback plan. You have to have something else that you want to do. He's so come up with a different career. But I was so dead set because writing was the only thing that gave me joy. And he's you're not going to make a living. So when I got Better Days, it aired and all the response that it got, because the response was overwhelmingly good with Better Days. A lot of people loved it. A lot of people related to it. And of course, the money that they paid me at that time was really good. It was the early 2000s. And you're paying this 19-year-old kid 500,000. And man, I would be in my dad's face you said I couldn't make a living, and here I am, and I'm making more money than most people who've gone to university have made. And that was something, because 500,000 back then is like 1 million and something now. So just having that conversation with him, kind of almost like I told you so, Dad, was one of the proudest things for me. And it just for me proved to show that if you really love something and you really have a passion for it, the money will come. So after Better Days, I decided to go to film school. So between Better Days and my next project, it was about maybe 3 years or 3.5 years. The year after I finished film school was just the hassle. We were like, you're like trying to apply for all the jobs. You're like trying to like do as much as you can. You're trying to look for work. And it's a little bit harder to get work when you're just out of film school, right? Because when you're just out of film school, guys are like, okay, we know that you're a writer, so writing gigs is something that you can get. But like as a producer, it's like, it's not that easy. But either way, we still did, that year we did about 3 documentaries. We did a documentary for Amref, we did a documentary for Tetra Pak. So we did a couple of documentaries even then, because we were just always on the grind, running up and down. Then the 3rd year, I worked for K24. And after K24, had a short stint with Mwalimu Mati's organization as the head of TV. Then after that, started Insignia Productions with my business partner back then. So between 2008 and 2012, when we were running Insignia Productions, we did several TV shows, Changing Times, we did Mheshimiwa. Apart from that, we did a lot of ads, a lot of infomercials. Just, we were all rounded. We would do everything, corporate videos, documentaries. We just did all sort of film work. I learned how to, first of all, run several productions at the same time. I learned how to definitely be a lot more organized, because film is something, if you're not organized and if you're not very structured, and naturally I'm not a structured person, but like running productions forces you to become a structured person. So in a way, it forces you to just even go beyond your own personality, because it is a necessity. The other lesson that I learned is, I had a business partner for 5 years, and one of the lessons that I learned from that is, if you're not very careful about who you partner with and making sure that you two have the same general direction, you want to go to the same place, that you have the same vision and objectives, it becomes then very difficult, because having a partner in general is not easy, especially if you guys are not very clear and do not communicate very clearly. So I think for me, my advice to anyone would be, if you want to have a business partner, you have to make sure that what do we want to achieve, and it's like, what is your job versus what is my job? Because what happens in partnerships is sometimes you'll feel like the other person is doing less than you, or you'll feel like, yeah, how come I'm doing more than this person, but we are sharing everything 50-50? You understand? So sometimes if you're not very clear and you don't put everything down on paper, then things get very, very messy. So my advice would be to just make sure that you're very clear when you go into partnership. So after I broke off from my former partnership, launched my own company. It's called Avant Films. So Avant Films, I think one of the things was, it really was a little bit exciting, to be honest, to have left a partnership and be able to do things on my own. And one of the things that was exciting about it is me being able to maintain my artistic integrity, because sometimes when you have a partner, one of the things that happens is you can have a partner that's so money-minded, and for me it's like, this is a passion, and sometimes it's very hard to follow both. If sometimes you want to really strictly follow the money path, it means you don't have time for passion projects. One of the exciting things about Avant Films is we've done a lot of passion projects. Anytime you refuse to make change with the market, then you're left behind. Right now, we've moved more into, the internet has really grown. Yeah, everything is like on YouTube, on social media. And so we decided to go that route and not just traditional TV, because a lot of people still focus on traditional TV. We thought to ourselves, how can we do this differently? So we decided to use the internet as the medium for a project called This Is Life. There were a lot of lessons that we had to learn. The first thing is, with social media, you have to do a lot of advertising, a lot of marketing. You can have a really good product, but if people don't know that it's out there, then what happens is you're not able to get the numbers that you want. So we learned really a lot about marketing, and we learned a lot about also branding, and those things are very, very important when it comes to dealing with social media, because everything has become about image. If you're able to work on your image and you work on your brand, then you're able to penetrate the social media market really, really fast. And that was the main lesson that we learned. So it's very important that before you hire someone, you kind of are able to kind of understand what this person is about and what it is that motivates them. So the other lesson that I learned is, of course, with finances. You have to be also very careful not to grow too fast. That's something that happens with film is sometimes you get a good project, you get paid, and you want to buy all the latest equipment, you want to buy, all the latest gear, but you have to be very careful not to do that, because if you're not able to handle your finances properly, then your business is just not going to survive. Third and final lesson is that you need to brand yourself, and your name needs to be synonymous with something. So you need to build your brand to the point where when people hear Avant Films, then it's synonymous with high quality. So those are the lessons that I've learned. I think I'd like to be remembered as a visionary. I would like to be remembered as someone who, because they say writers change the world. That's the thing, writers change the world. So I really want to be the kind of writer who changes the world. So I want to be remembered as a person who's a visionary and a world changer. I think that's how I want to be remembered. So for the longest time, we haven't told our own stories. And when you look at us as Africans, we were storytellers. We've always been storytellers from back in the day. But somewhere along the way, we lost our voice. And it's time for us to get our voice back. So I want to be part of these visionaries. I want to be part of this group of emerging African filmmakers who say, you know what, let us tell our own stories, not through the perspective of someone else, not through the perspective of like people from the West or whatever. Tell our own stories with our own voices. And in that way, and when I talk about us changing the world, that's how you change the world, one story at a time. And it's time for us to just take the power back and tell our own stories in our own voice. The advice I'd give emerging filmmakers, people who want to be filmmakers, is number one, if you enter the film industry, don't think that it's just this glamorous industry where you just can come in, shoot for 1-2 hours a day and you'll be done. It is a lot of hard work. So you need to make sure that you want to dedicate yourself fully to being a filmmaker, because it is not easy. And number two is you have to have a passion for it. This is the industry that you absolutely have to have a passion for. There are a lot of industries that people can kind of get away with kind of like doing a job just to get paid and go home. Just filmmaking is not one of them. Filmmaking is one of those industries that you have to have a passion for. And the more passionate filmmakers we have, it will go back to us telling our own stories. And our own stories are going to be told by passionate filmmakers, not filmmakers who are just doing it to do the 9-to-5 and go back home. This is not your passion, don't do it. That's my advice at the end of the day, and that's the bottom line, is that if you have a passion for it, do it well, stay patient, stay with it, stay with the dream, and everything is going to happen. The advice I have for young people who are thinking of becoming entrepreneurs is that you just have to start. Don't think about it, I don't have a degree, I don't have this, I don't have that. Just start. The people who started with like 5,000 shillings, 10,000 shillings, 15,000 shillings, it's like start with whatever you have. Don't focus on, I don't have this and I don't have that. Have an idea, build on it, and be consistent and work hard. And no matter what it is that you want to do, start. A lot of successful people started small, because sometimes what people think in their heads and what holds them back is they think, I have to have this big amount of money, I have to have this big like factory or this big studio. Like they think that you have to start big. No, start with where you are. Just start.